It's another classic episode of the Miller Experience. I'm your host, Excalibur, and got my co-host Craig. Today, like always, we have a very special guest. But before I introduce my guest, I want to thank you guys for subscribing to the channel. We're currently at 1,103 subscribers. So keep smashing that subscribe button, keep smashing that share button, keep smashing that like button. And hey, make any comments you like. It's all love here. You know how we do, guys. All right, before we get started, I just want to send out my prayers to my brother Craig's sister, Wanda. She had a medical conditions. I mean, she's recovering right now, but let's send out our prayers to her. And also my mother, she had a minor surgery today. She's fine. My brother's with her. I want to send my prayers out to my mother, Cynthia Miller. All right, guys, our guest, legendary, classic. Check this out with his intro, guys. Today, my guest, we honor and welcome a true legend in the music industry. My guest's career spanned decades with Grammy-nominated songwriter, producer, manager who's worked with some of the biggest names in R&B and hip-hop, such as Bobby Brown, Babyface, The Deal, TLC, and so much more. From co-writing chart-topping hits to mentoring emerging new talent, he's been a driving force behind the scenes in iconic records. Whether in the studio or guiding artists through the industry, his impact is undeniable. Let's dive today into the journey of the one and only Mr. Sid UncleJamz Johnson. How you doing, Mr. Johnson?
I'm doing well. How are you gentlemen today? Welcome. Thanks for welcoming me to the show.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Pleasure.
Your background, yes, sir. Your background is so classic. But before we get there, tell us something about yourself, where you grew up, and how do you become in the music industry?
Oh, wow. Well, I'm originally from Indianapolis, Indiana. I'm a Hoosier. Hoosier. That means who's your neighbor. That's what they tell me.
Yeah, that's what they tell you.
I would say that my introduction to music, there is an introduction that I do not have any memory of, but members of my family have told me that I used to like Elvis Presley when I'd see him on TV. But wow. I don't recall that, and I disown that. But I will own up to being impressed by seeing the Beatles on the Ed Sullivan Show in 1964, and the way they had those girls screaming and everything. I thought, sheesh, I think I want to be in music. So I can really remember liking seeing the Beatles on the Ed Sullivan Show in 1964. In addition to that, I was exposed to a lot of music growing up. In my household, there was a miscegenation in music. There were people like Dinah Washington playing. There were people like Wes Montgomery, because my mom was friends with Wes Montgomery's wife. So it was sort of a connection because he's from Indianapolis as well. Cannonball Adderley, who else? Blues people, B.B. King, Bobby Blue Bland. Then there was the gospel. There was Mahalia Jackson. Then there was the Claire Ward singers and the Swan Silvertones. There was all of that good music that was just sort of going through my mind. Then I went to a college preparatory high school, which was an integrated experiment in Indianapolis, Indiana, with they tried to do a 50-50 population in the school of blacks and whites. And I became exposed to a lot of rock music. So I'm sort of a walking miscegenation. I like rock, I like R&B, I like jazz, I like some hip hop. Hip hop was not prevalent at that particular time, but later on I started getting into hip hop. So I'm sort of a walking encyclopedia of music. I just about know about everybody in every form of music. The two forms that I'm not too fond of, not too crazy about symphony music, and I'm not too crazy about country and western, although I've been exposed to all of it. So that's a little bit of my background.
Wow. Powerful, man. Well, let me ask you this. Before I ask my next question, the Ed Sullivan show, is that like the Breakfast Club in today's era?
No, the Ed Sullivan Show would be similar to, did you ever see Dick Clark's American Bandstand?
Yes.
Did you ever see Soul Train with Don Cornelius?
I remember Soul Train.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Ed Sullivan came on in the 60s, and he would have music artists on there. Like he had the Beatles, he had the Temptations, he had the Supremes, whoever was really happening during that period of time, he'd have them on that TV show. And it was like the big thing to be on the Ed Sullivan Show. Mm-hmm. So I think it came on Sunday nights, if I remember correctly. So every Sunday night you'd be glued to the TV to see who was on the Ed Sullivan Show. That was the thing to do.
What's a lesson you learned early in your music career that still guides you to today?
A lesson that I learned that still guides me to today. Well, as you very well probably know, things have drastically changed in the music business from how they were when I first got into it. Mm-hmm. I would probably say the biggest thing is you shouldn't take a lot of things too personal, because at the end of the day, there's the music business, and then there's the music industry. So if you get caught up in your feelings and get those three things mixed up and mashed up in a bad way, it can really throw you off. So if you don't take it personal, I think you can probably survive this game. Because you're going to have highs and lows and some mids, That's just the nature of the beast of this game.
I agree.
With your music, go ahead, Greg. Go ahead.
No, I was thinking. I saw something when he was inducted into the Soul Music Hall of Fame as a songwriter back in 2020. Do you think did it take too long, or was it right on time for you? Because you've been writing for a long time.
Well, they say everything happens when it's supposed to happen. Mm-hmm. So I'm not going to go up against fate. I'm not the kind of person that needs to have my accomplishments acknowledged by other people. I mean, like, I really do enjoy being behind the scenes. Mm-hmm. I first started out being a singer in R&B and rock and roll bands, and I really didn't care a whole lot for my voice. I kind of always handled the business when I was in groups early on. So I always had that kind of ability. So some people get into this game and they don't really realize the lane that they're the best in.
Right.
And I was asked in 1975 by this gentleman by the name of Reggie Griffin, who was the leader of the group called Manchild out of Indianapolis. Reggie Griffin has gone on to produce and write a lot of songs for the Sugar Hill Gang. He's produced and written for Patti LaBelle and the OJs, and he's just done a plethora of things and accomplishments. But back then, we had both been managed by a con artist type manager in our fledgling days of being in local groups. And we kind of were acquainted with each other. And I went to a concert where this group Manchild opened up for the Average White Band, who was hot at the time with their song Pick Up the Pieces and Cloudy and Schoolboy Crush and all that sort of stuff during that period of time. And I saw them and I spoke to him after the show, and he said, "Hey, give me a call tomorrow. What are you doing right now?" I said, "Well, I had just formed another rock and funk band, but after seeing you guys, I think I'm going to throw in the towel. I don't even think I want to do it." He said, "Well, give me a call tomorrow." And I called him, and he said, "We're getting ready to do a residency at this club called Gordy's Lounge. We're going to be there the whole week, and I'd like for you to come out and check us out." And I was like, "Oh, okay." So I went up to Gordy's, and at the end of the night, they all went downstairs and told me to sit at this table and wait. And he said, "I want you to join the band and play Briefcase." I thought, what? So that was my introduction to being an artist manager. And there was a new sheriff in town because I had a lot of training when I was in college of dealing with contracts and how things should be done. Mm-hmm. So I sort of had a reputation for being that stiff upper lip aristocratic sort of manager guy. People didn't like it. Some people just like to do the nod and the wink, but I wanted to get it in writing, and I wanted everything totally correct. Right. So that's the way I've kind of always, operated, with everything being totally correct. There's one thing to say we're going to do this, then it's another thing to commit to it.
Right. So UncleJamz, where'd you get that name? How'd that come about?
That name came from the drummer and leader of Midnight Star. I went into one of their rehearsals one day, and his name is Bobby Lovelace, and he said, "Here comes UncleJamz, the man that comes up with all the hooks and all the songs." And it just kind of stuck, So it's like, I be jamming, so I'm UncleJamz.
Stuck.
Now, there is another UncleJamz, and that's George Clinton of Parliament Funkadelic, but he spells his Jams. Mine is Jamz. Don't get it twisted.
There you go. Hey, Mr. Johnson, with your musical ear, how can you tell if a song is crappy and if it's really good?
Wow. That can be a very subjective thing.
Mm-hmm.
I have a reputation that I can feel out talent. People have always said, he's got this ear for talent. And I guess it's just sort of an innate thing, because nowadays there's a lot of the new music that I really don't personally like. And I don't understand how people like it. But at the end of the day, what is important is that people like it. Right. And it doesn't matter if I personally like it. It matters if people like it. But I still think that there's too much what I call cookie cutter music, where there's almost just like there's a template and people are doing the same sort of thing. And I think a lot of the music is too vulgar. I think a lot of it is too... I like the days when people like Marvin Gaye had songs like "What's Going On,"
telling a story,
City Blues, songs that had more message, or songs that dealt more with, and when they were ballads, that dealt more with romance rather than immediately going right to the bedroom with no getting the first and last name or whining and dining. Nowadays, it doesn't seem to matter. It's like you don't even have to kiss. It's just like boom, shakalaka is right there. The times have changed, but everything that changes is not always, in my opinion, for the better. But I do try to keep an open ear to where we are now, and I try to filter out that which I can deal with now and that which I think is crap. And I'm not going to mention any artist names here because I don't do that.
I was just about to ask you that, man.
There are some people that are making some records and I'm just like,
how?
I don't get it, and it's like, it's influencing our young people. It's making our young brothers be more thug, gang oriented, more criminal minded, and it's making our young females being thoughts. It's making them be ratchet. And I like ladylike behavior. What's wrong with being ladylike and what's wrong with being a gentleman? We got guys calling girls man. We got girls calling each other bruh. We've really got some crazy stuff going on now. And I don't know. I think we need to get a handle on it, but I don't know. Maybe the train has left the station. Shut up, I'm an OG,
Right.
Yeah, you know what's crazy? Man, if I'm in the car with my daughter and I'm listening to the radio, I can't have her listen to the radio anymore. I got to put on, I'm like, you know what, baby, this is what daddy grew up listening to. You know what I'm saying? I put on some old school music that I grew up listening to, and she was like, okay, and she be bobbing to it, she listened to it, and she like it. My wife is a huge 90s, 80s, even 70s R&B junkie. Whenever we go on a road trip, that's all we listening to.
Right.
From Pandora. That's all we listen to. My
really
daughter, 14 years old, and she can sing some old Whitney Houston songs right now.
What's really interesting is a lot of our rappers, they like a lot of the old school R&B, which is really weird, even though they're making a whole different kind of music. Because usually when you expose our younger people to the good classic music, they're like, oh, yeah, that's not so bad, But then if the only thing is the ratchet people, almost said some names of artists. If the only thing is such and such and such and such, and that's your beginning and your ending, then I think you're in trouble. If you got, it's like fast food. It's a thing called
things.
It's like a doctor will tell you excess is what causes the problem. Like if you just have a little bit of a McDonald's, but not eat McDonald's or Burger King or Wendy's every day.
Yeah.
And that's the problem. I think a lot of our young people get a steady diet of artists like such and such and such and such and such and such and such, and they're not exposed to anything any different than that. And I think therein lies the problem.
I mean, you listen to the old tracks and you hear, they're telling a story. Nowadays, I can't follow. The music. It's like, where are we going? And it's different now. When I listen, I mean, when I think about it, you say that, you started writing songs early, correct?
Yeah, I think the first time I wrote a song called Late Again when I was in junior high school.
All right. Was a lot of songs in your head at the time, and that was just an outlet to write it?
Yeah, I think the chordal sequence that I was playing on the piano was probably very similar to stuff that I was hearing on the radio. And then I just sort of put my own little melody to it, Right. I don't necessarily think that many of today's young people that are writing, I don't know that they're really influenced by what's going on around them. They would probably tell us that they're writing from what's happening right then and there in their hood, in their head, and in their circle. It's kind of like the monkey see, monkey do syndrome. Right. If everybody else is writing about going out and snatching somebody's money when they're at the ATM, then I'm going to write about that. If everybody else is writing about getting high, I'm going to write about getting high. If everybody is writing about let's get lit and let's have a party and let's have a lot of liquor, then I'm going to write about that. Then we have the trendy songs, like this new song that's out now called Boots on the Ground.
Right.
That's like, those things are kind of cute. It's fashion to dance. It's where people go out and have fun. The old and the young can get up and do it, and they sling their fans. It's that's kind of fun. Or like when Tamia and Grant were doing their little dance at home to her song. The next thing you know, we had the Tamia line dance. Those kind of things are fun. We've always had that kind of stuff, trendy things like that happen in music. It's kind of harmless.
All right.
Tell us about your relationship with Babyface. I saw on your bio that you met him in the 70s with, I believe you and his brother was in the group, Melvin. How's your relationship with Babyface?
May Melvin rest in peace. He was one of the greatest R&B singers that I've ever heard. Melvin and I were affiliated in an R&B situation where we needed somebody to fill in that could really deliver songs in that soulful kind of manner that he could do. And I had to go out to the Edmonds home. Whoa. Are we all gone?
No, I'm right here.
Went away.
Yeah.
Are we back?
Yeah.
I'm right. I see you. You froze. You froze, Mr. Johnson. You frozen. All right, you back.
Yeah, you guys went away. You weren't even populating. You were circling. You were circling the block. So I went out
it's probably Melvin telling you, "Hey man, don't tell all my business now."
Maybe that's what it is. Oh my gosh. Okay, so I went out to the Edmonds home to take these records for Melvin to learn, and he just sort of said, "This is my younger brother Kenny." It was just sort of a passing moment. Didn't think anything about it. Then 3 years later, when I was managing the group Manchild, one of the members of Manchild had been in a group with Kenny earlier on called Tarnished Silver. And Kenny was now a senior in high school. And this was the week that he was graduating from high school, is the same week that he joined Manchild, which is really a wild situation. So that was 1976. And he and I have been great friends since then. We have a long-standing relationship, and it's a great thing. And I'm so proud that my cousin Bootsy Collins named him Babyface, and his career his career's just blossomed into something that, I mean, I always knew that the guy had it in him, but I don't know that I knew it would be like this. It's like, wow.
I didn't know Bootsy Collins had something to do with it. I didn't know that.
Yeah, I didn't. That's one I didn't know that.
Yeah, Bootsy Collins walked into a recording studio one time while Kenny was in there laying down a track, and he said, "That's Babyface." And it, it's like we get these nicknames that stick, and next thing you know, that's our name. Like UncleJamz, and now we have Babyface.
Wow.
And I remember when the deal was out on tour with Luther Vandross and DeBarge, and they were introducing him each night when he would sing this song called Sweet November, which was on one of the Deal albums. And they'd say that was Kenny Edmonds, and it would just be sort of a tepid audience response. Once Bootsy did the nickname thing and they started, that's Babyface, and the girls would start screaming, it's all in a name, like right. Babyface seems to resonate better with screaming females in the audience and saying that's Kenny Edmonds. So, it is what it is. Exactly. But he's Babyface now, totally branded and totally all the way there. And I'm so proud of him.
Well warranted. I mean, he's running with it. He's doing big things.
A lot of big things. Getting ready to go out on this massive tour late summer and fall with Charlie Wilson, Casey of Jodeci, and El DeBarge.
Okay.
That's a classic.
That's a nice lineup there. Man.
Oh yeah,
that's a nice lineup. I might got to. Me and my wife might have to check that one out.
That's called Uncle Charlie's Cookout. Uncle Charlie's R&B Cookout Tour. Yeah.
How old is Charlie Wilson right now? How old is he?
My name is Bennett, and I'm not in it.
All right, hey,
I'm not going to discuss anybody's ages.
I got you. I was gonna give him a compliment because he still look good. He's still moving.
Yeah, he's still doing his thing.
Yeah, he's good to be a septuagenarian. Oh, excuse me.
If you want to name names, what are some of the artists today you think are outliers? That are outliers? Yes, sir.
Woo! There you go. You're just gonna. Okay, first of all, let me say this. There are people that put up tremendous streaming numbers since we don't have record sales anymore.
Right.
And I don't exactly know why. Like Drake, he's an artist that puts up massive numbers and he has a massive following. He wouldn't be my cup of tea, but I applaud his success. Who else hits that sort of thing for me? Taylor Swift. I applaud her success, and I just I don't get it. But it is what it is. I think that for the majority community, it's like the boxer, the great white boxer that was the great white hope back in the day. I think that many times the majority community needs a great white hope. And Taylor Swift is their great white hope. So people always want to make comparisons between she and Beyonce. Well, Beyonce could never stand up with her in terms of the numbers because of the sheer numbers of the majority citizens. But I applaud Taylor Swift's success, and I'm really applaud the way she treats her staff, her crew. She gives even the truck drivers, all of the people who set up the equipment at her shows, she anoints them very well with great bonuses. She probably has a heart of gold. And I wish that more people in our community did the same sort of thing for their staff members.
Wow.
Yeah. And that's as far as I'm going to go with naming any artist, because, there's certainly a lot of other artists that I don't get it. It's a head scratcher, but I don't need to get it. If you like it, I love it. Psych,
Well, I'm gonna tell you this, Sid. I had a theory, and a lot of people, they kind of agree with me what I said when I broke it down this way. How I can pretty much tell, this is just my theory, so you can laugh if you want, but it might sound crazy, but this is my theory. And Craig, you know this. On my thoughts, that people that can sing, they look like they can cook. Fantasia, Aretha Franklin, who else? Patty. Now, the only person look like she could sing but look like she can't cook is Mariah. But I don't think Beyonce can sing. That's just my personal opinion. But Fantasia is my number one. That girl is bad.
Mariah.
There are people that would debate you on that.
What you say, Sid?
There are people that would debate you on that.
Yeah.
You know, personally, Aretha Franklin is my favorite singer. She's probably my absolute favorite artist. Always has been. I was a little boy in Chicago. I was there the night they put the crown on her head at the Regal Theater in Chicago. Her music is like the soundtrack of my life. I really relate to Aretha Franklin. Who else did you mention? Fantasia.
Patty, also Whitney. I meant to throw Whitney in there too.
Patti LaBelle.
I'm not a fan of that person. I appreciate her accomplishments, but the thing that makes Aretha so different is Aretha writes and she played the piano.
Gotcha.
And you know, a lot of people always want to compare Aretha and Patti and Gladys. And the difference between the three of them is that Gladys Knight was a part of Gladys Knight and the Pips, and her biggest hits came with Gladys Knight and the Pips. Patti LaBelle was a part of Patti LaBelle and the Bluebells, and then it just changed to LaBelle. So then she became a solo artist. Aretha has always been a solo artist. So most of the time when they were up for awards and things, they were not in the same category because they were in group categories and she was always in the solo category. So, you know, I just wanted to put that historical fact out there. As far as Mariah Carey, I have to have great love for Mariah Carey because she used elements of two occasions in her big hit, We Belong Together. And thanks to her, I was able to eat. And I appreciate that. In terms of being a great singer, you know, I mean, she can sing. But I just think there's a lot of hateration on Mariah Carey because I think it's the divaism, the way she carries herself, and some people don't really relate to that. But a lot of people hated on Aretha too because she was the original diva. So, you know, these female singers, they all are kind of divas. I mean, Aretha, Patti, Mariah, Gladys Knight.
Whitney Houston.
I didn't see too much of a diva in Gladys. She kind of had more of a down home, sweet spirit. Whitney Houston, she was a piece of work. An incredible singer, you know. No question about it. It's really amazing that when you look at many of our Black artists, many of the greats are no longer with us. Like in the blues, B.B. King is gone. Then you have Prince, and you have Michael Jackson, you have Aretha, you have Donna Summer, you have Natalie Cole, you know, Whitney. All of these people, they're no longer with us. Luther, incredible, fabulous, one of the best.
You ever worked with him?
With Luther?
Yes.
No, I did write a song that we had pitched to Luther, and he liked it, but it never got to reach, the point of getting in the studio. It was a beautiful song. Still might have to get that done on somebody one day. But it just doesn't have the same value as it used to have, placing songs, because with streaming, streaming is like renting music. Right. People don't really buy music anymore. So it doesn't have the same impact that it would have had back in the day when people were buying physical pieces, you know?
So you miss vinyl. You really miss the vinyl age.
Not only the vinyl age, I miss the cassette age, the CD age, anything where people had to actually buy a physical piece of music. Right. I mean, now for $12 a month, you can go on one of these streaming platforms and listen to hundreds of thousands of pieces of music and not own it. And the songwriters and the artists make mere fractions of pennies, you know?
Yeah.
I feel sorry for the young people of today that are just now coming up in this business, and they've never really experienced a real royalty check, nor will they ever, because of streaming. But it's never going to go back because change is fluid and it keeps on being constant. So maybe one of these days something will even replace streaming. I don't know.
I know one thing I miss about that era was like when I used to buy CDs. I used to love to look at the back and see who they thinking and who wrote this, who produced this. I used to look at the album covers. I used to love looking at the pictures. These kids nowadays, they would never experience that when it comes to music.
And
I don't know what it
Absolutely.
is. There's something about it I just love when I bought a CD, a music CD.
Absolutely.
You used to be able to go into a store and just look at all this music and, like you said, pick out what you want.
Yeah.
You're touching it physically.
Yeah.
And like
I mean, I remember going into record shops and picking up the actual album and turning it around and looking at those kind of things. I wanted to see who played the drums, who played the guitar, who played the keyboard, who did this and did that. That's when Babyface performs live. He has a section in his show which he does a medley of tunes that he's written and produced on other people. And every time he does that, if you look at the reviews on different sites, people are just amazed. I didn't know he wrote that. I didn't know he did this. That's because nowadays people don't get to see that, because if you were able to see that, you'd realize how significant his contributions have been. Now we don't know. I mean, you have to, when you upload these songs to these digital streaming platforms, you have to go to a different section where you list those kind of things. And these young people of today, they just simply want to take that MP3 and hurry up and upload it to the platform and just give their name, the song title, and that's it.
Yeah.
They don't worry about, sometimes they buy these things offline, online. They buy the music tracks. So they don't even necessarily know who created what and did what. So we're really missing that, and it's kind of sad.
I take it a step further, Sid. You don't even have to buy it nowadays. You can go on YouTube, put the artist's name in the album, and the whole album play for you on YouTube.
Everything.
Well, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't have to belong to Spotify, Amazon, Apple, or Tidal. You can just, if you're around Wi-Fi, go to YouTube. You can pretty much hear anything you want to hear. I mean,
video, everything.
It's like music doesn't have, we all love music.
Yeah.
But it doesn't have the value that it once had, because it has been, I don't like it.
Do they even do music videos like they used to? I mean,
No.
You don't see it.
They're not as important as they used to be, because we don't have all of the video channels that we used to have back in the day. Like I have my own label called MECAP Music, MECAP, and several of my acts, we have done music videos. And everybody that's got a current single out, we haven't done any videos on any of those songs yet. We've been thinking about it, but we're just kind of looking at the expense of doing the video and what's the value of doing the video. But I've got some records that are really making a lot of noise nationally, even getting some international play. Like one of my acts, which is a 4-man R&B singing group called Forecast, which is going to be on your show soon. They currently have the record. This went #1 yesterday on the Urban Influencer R&B and Soul charts, would Take a Chance on Romance. This is their second #1. The previous single, Girl You Good, went #1. So we're making impact. I think I have 9 acts on my label, and I apply some old school rules with some new school tools in how I do what I do to try to keep things relevant. But it's a battle. It's rough, because there are over 75,000 digital music uploads every day on the platforms.
Wow.
So you're competing with 74,999 other pieces, literally, when you put music out there.
Wow. It's got to be special.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's got to be something that, who could have imagined that a guy that comes up with a song about boots on the ground would have, he was #1 last week on the chart. It's like
trendy.
Yeah, that was a trendy thing. But 5 years from now, nobody will remember 803 Fresh. That's the name of the artist. Not unless he can come up with another trendy song. Because TikTok, people come up with these little dances and these little catchy things on TikTok, and you got your 3 weeks of fame. Then it's the next person that bumps you out.
Yeah.
I am more interested in music that has staying power. And I'm trying as hard as I can with my artists to have them make music that sticks rather than be trendy.
Right.
That's where I am.
Because you want to be able to, Dame Dash said it best. You need to make music that you can perform even when you're older. You can't make new music when you get older, so you can go do shows and perform your old music. You want to make classic lifetime music for people to enjoy. You be able to enjoy, your grandkids be able to enjoy, your great grandkids. Then the type of music you want to make.
Well, I mean, you look at the people that are out performing live right now. It's difficult for a new artist to go on tour because they don't have a catalog of songs that people know. But you can have people like Monica and Brandy and Drew Hill and Jagged Edge and 112 and Jodeci and Boyz II Men and on and on and on, because those people have a catalog of songs, and people don't want to hear new music for them because people don't care about that. People don't hardly listen to the radio anymore, but they will go see these people live,
right,
and take that walk down memory lane,
right,
because memory lane is very important.
Right. Yes. Nostalgia. It's all about that, you know.
Relate.
Yeah.
Oh, he did my song. Oh, she sang my song, you know.
Song.
Like, who's singing? Like the current Sexy Red song. That's not going to be lasting 10 years from now.
No,
as a matter of fact, somebody is going to listen to that 10 years from now, and they're going to go, I can't even believe that I like that. As we get
she can't perform that song when she's 45, 50. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Without mentioning the title of the song.
Exactly.
No. And I like it when you can have music that can appeal to various races, ethnic groups, genders, lifestyles, so forth and so on. I like for my artists to be able to perform in front of grandmothers, mothers, and aunties, not just in front of, you know, the current trend people. You know, that's what I like. Music that
brings people together
all over the place, you know.
I saw one of your interviews. You say you used to bring your artists, I guess, to your mom's house, and she want to listen to your artist's music. And you had some artists that you brought to the house, and she asked to listen to music. Like, I don't think you can hear this, Mom.
You've done your research.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I was managing this group out of Georgia who had very raw and ratchet material. And I don't know what was wrong with my head back then, because R&B was just dead at that point in time. And it was just, I said, well, I'll apply the knowledge that I have and work with these rappers, you know. So we were out on a promotional tour, and she wanted me to bring the boys in. And she had prepared some candy and fruit basket for them. And she said, well, I like LL Cool J. And I said, Mom, this is nothing like LL Cool J. she really couldn't quite grasp it, you know. But she never heard them, not unless she went out and bought it herself, because I don't think she would have bought anything like that. But that started making me think. I said, you know, my entire life, I mean, Babyface's bands and Manchild and everybody used to always practice in my mom's basement, make all that noise in the neighborhood, get people be gathered around driveways seeing her coming out and stuff. And I said, now I'm dealing with music that I can't let my mother hear. I said, you know, something's got to change here. So in 2014, I made the definitive decision that any rap that I dealt with, it had to be the kind of rap that did not require a parental advisory sticker. And a lot of Black people do not understand that the N-word is a word that the FCC bans, but the N-word is a word that I don't use, and I don't like for people to use it. So we don't have the N-word. We don't have anything like that. Some R&B artists now like to use that, or use a couple of spicy things. Our music at MECAP Music is totally clean, totally not offensive to anybody. We're not going to do that.
That's understood. Right. You can appreciate that. Like you say, clean. Everyone, you know, and every generation can, you know, appreciate.
Let me ask you this, Sid. 2 occasions. What were you going through when you wrote that song?
Well, that mainly was Babyface, and I just did a little bit, and I don't know what he was going through.
I mean, it's a classic.
It is a classic.
Yeah, it's a great song, and it's stood the test of time. Excuse me. I would think that Slow Jam would be more of the one that has more of a checkered story behind it.
Okay.
Slow Jam. came about through when Kenny left Manchout and started his own group, which he named April, which was after the month in which he was born. Excuse me. They did a lot of up-tempo songs. They were practicing.
Go in and out. You going in and out, Sid. Frozen.
Yeah, he's frozen now.
Yeah. Just give him a second. You still frozen, Sid. All right, better. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So he said to me one day, he said, "We need some ballads. What can you come up with?" And I said, "Okay." So at that particular point in time, I had a summer league baseball team, and school was still in, and some of the players that played on my summer league team played for a high school in Indianapolis. So I went out to scout them. So all in my mind was thinking, what can I come up with that would be a great concept for a ballad? So one of my cousins played on this high school baseball team, and he asked me, could I give his two friends a ride home along with him after the game was over? So I said to them, hey guys, like when you all go to your little house parties and stuff, what makes it really special, And they were like, oh man, whoever planned the record when they put on a slow jam. When I said that word, put on a slow jam, I could barely drive. I was like, oh, boy meets girl at party, dance and fall in love on the slow jam. When you call up the DJ and say, could you play that song, Slow Jam, for me and my baby? So I go to the band house and I said, I got it, slow jam. Kenny said, yeah, that's what we need. I said, that's it, slow jam. He said, yeah, that's what we need. It felt like to me that went on for 10 minutes, like going back. Dude, I'm saying the song is slow jam. Play another slow jam for me and my baby. You dance and fall in love at a party. Call the DJ. Oh man, out comes the notebook paper and writing. Calls the keyboard player in. He starts playing the guitar, coming up with the chords, and then he calls the other band members in to teach it to them, and thus was the birth of slow jam.
That's wild.
We went to Columbus, Ohio, and recorded a demo of it.
Wow.
Ultimately, that group ended up breaking up, but Midnight Star the group April opened up the show for Midnight Star, and they did Slow Jam, and Slow Jam just devastated the audience. So they kind of remembered it. So when they were recording their No Parking on the Dance Floor album, it was kind of like, can we do that song, Slow Jam? And so it's gone on to be a part of a 3 million selling album and one of the most endearing ballads of all time.
That's
still
awesome.
Receiving heavy airplay. And then Usher and Monica covered it for the Soul Food movie and the soundtrack.
Wow, I remember that. Remember that.
So yes.
Were you involved in the Waiting to Exhale soundtrack?
No, I didn't. Well, I wasn't.
That was Babyface, right?
Yes, that was.
I was about to say, I know that soundtrack from the beginning. When my mom, I'm putting your business out here real quick. When my mom was going through a divorce, coming home from school, I heard that soundtrack every day. I knew the first track to the last one.
That was a great piece of work for him.
Yeah,
there's no question about it. It's a great listen from the beginning to the end.
Man, you ain't lying.
All of the artists brought their A game to that.
Wow. That is amazing.
I'm gonna let you brag a little bit. Name some of the artists, some of the legends you work with, and what do you learn from each individual?
Woo-hoo. Work ethic is one that Babyface has. Mm-hmm. He's kind of a perfectionist. He likes to capture that raw feeling and get that real emotion. He's really strong on melody. I also had an opportunity to work with Ron Banks, the late Ron Banks, who was the lead singer for the Dramatics, put out the song Go Outside in the Rain and What You See Is What You Get. Remember them? Old school guys, a little bit younger, but Ron was like the kind of guy when you have him in the studio, he's not a one take guy. He's going to want to get that and get that thing right. Totally. Who else? I mean, everybody is different in how they work and in terms of what they do. Some people, their work ethic is more of a, they just want to get in there and get it down, and they want you to do the surgery afterwards, because there's so many devices that you have that you can make something be really perfect when it really wasn't perfect. And some of those tools we didn't have all of those tools back then, but now they have auto tune,
right,
octave dividers, and have all kind of things that you can do. I mean, you can take a non-singer and make them sound worthy, if you will, and then you can really tell when you see them live as to whether they can sing or not. Not to mention any names. Some people should probably just be studio singers and maybe shouldn't go out and perform live, but then they're not going to make any money. So, you know, what I'm really not impressed with these days is the amount of superstar singers that are out lip syncing.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to mention any names.
Right.
Some of the greatest defenders are some of our famous female singers that are out touring, and they're not singing live, they're lip syncing. And I don't really like that.
I agree.
Yeah. That's tough. I mean, when you go to you pay all that money to go to a concert and you're looking at someone lip sync on the stage.
That's frustrating.
Oh, one of the people I was thinking of, Anthony Hamilton. Unfortunately, what we did on Anthony has never been released. I still have the master on that. He was doing a guest on this rap act, and that guy has got so much soul inside of him.
Yeah,
and
man.
like you could probably take 20 different takes out of Anthony, and each one would be great. And it's like, he's like, "Did you like that?" I said, "It's great. I think I want to do it again." It's like, dude, that was just fabulous. You know, you could get it in one take. You know, like I've heard stories from some of my people, like when Narda Michael Walden or Babyface produced Aretha, how she was the queen of she's one take. And then sometimes there might be something she'd want to touch up, and then she would like say, "Okay, that's the song right there. She's done." She wasn't the kind of person that was just going to keep on going over and over and over and over. You know, I look at it like this: studio time costs a lot of money.
Yeah.
Right. You should practice at home, and you should be prepared, not practice in the studio. So if you really know your thing, you should come in there and be ready to do it. I kind of like it when a person does take one for nothing, just to run it down, get the flow, and then they go for real. And then we go back and listen to it to see if there's a spot we might want to punch in something. But somebody that's got to punch in 6, 7, 8, 9 times, it's kind of like, you know, that's not fun.
It's exhausting. Yeah.
Diddy made a comment a couple of years ago that R&B is dead. Do you agree?
Who?
Diddy. Diddy.
You say who?
We not talking. I'm just we're not talking about baby oil and all the other stuff. I'm just talking about the comment he made a couple of years ago.
I don't think. Anyway,
R&B is dead. Absolutely not. R&B lost some favor because the difference between R&B and hip hop is that hip hop was more for the streets, and there were a lot of people that were slinging street pharmaceuticals, if you will, find a nice way of saying it, that were influencing the game. They were getting favor at radio, they were getting favor at retail, they were getting favor at the video channels that existed, because the way they achieved their money was kind of under the table money. And when you can grease palms to gain favor, you can make something seem like it's bigger than life.
That's right.
R&B guys, they had jobs.
Yeah.
They were working people. They weren't slinging like that. So, you know, they couldn't compete with that. You know, you weren't going to have the greatest crooners in R&B out here selling pharmaceuticals. That wasn't going to work.
Right.
You know, they weren't about that thug life. It was a whole different sort of a thing.
Yeah.
So when you come from that kind of an element and you want to say that R&B is dead, R&B was not paying off people like what rap was doing. And that's what I think the big difference is. And I think now we're at a point where people were missing R&B.
Mm-hmm. Now I think that's what he meant.
So
Sid.
now R&B is trying to.
Mm-hmm. I think that's what he meant.
I mean, I think he would be an expert.
No comment.
He would be an expert.
Hey,
no comment.
I'm gonna leave that one alone. Barry White. You ever work with Barry? Barry White?
Barry White, no. But I did have some work with Diddy though. One of the artists at an independent label that I was running. We used his the Hitmen. We used Stevie J to produce a tune, and I had to have direct dealings with Diddy during that period of time. And you know, certainly during his heyday, he was a very essential character in hip hop and urban music. That can't be taken away, period. You know, I don't look at people necessarily for what they're doing or have done that's caused the news media to be all over them like white on rice. I look at what they've done as a contribution to the culture.
Right.
So, you know, in terms of a contribution to the culture, be it pro or con, Diddy was a relevant figure.
Right.
Yeah.
Your company, MECAP, tell us about it. What does it mean? And are you developing artists, or what's going on with your company?
MECAP stands for Musical Entertainment Consulting and Production. We were just trying to come up with something clever. You know, and I have 9 acts on my label.
Right.
There are currently, I do consulting on another act, and there's a female trio that is being pitched to me out of Georgia, and I'm taking a look at them right now.
Okay.
We have, let me see, we have two hip hop acts. One is out of Portland, Oregon, and the other is my longest standing artist. He's out of Indianapolis.
Okay.
I have a female R&B singer. She's in Southwest Florida. Okay, we keep losing. All right, am I live again?
Yeah, you bet.
Okay, the feed goes away sometimes.
Yes,
and
sir.
I have an R&B singer out in Sacramento, California. I have one in the Bay Area of California. I have a female R&B pop singer in Indianapolis. I have a male R&B singer that sings and plays acoustic guitar in Indianapolis. And when I get to naming off people, I always want to make sure I don't forget anybody.
There you go.
I think I got everybody there. Yeah, I think I did.
Kind of froze a little bit.
In rotation mode. You're populating back. Am I back?
Yeah, you froze. You froze a little bit. All right, you back.
Okay. And so basically, we try to run this independent label. We don't have a major label budget, but we have some major label sort of expertise, if you will.
Gotcha.
And we try to do all the moves to try to make our music get into the DJ record pools. And we try to do the e-blasting with several different companies so that people get to hear our music. And we do the promotions to where we are on all of the digital streaming platforms. And we do media interviews, whether it be a podcast or a Zoom or IG Live out there. Okay, am I back?
Yeah, you froze. All right, you back. You back.
Back. Okay.
Yeah, you back. You back. We got you. We got you. Last
I'm back
question.
and I'm
Last question. When it's all said and done, how do you want the world to remember Sid UncleJamz Johnson?
someone that cared about the integrity of the music.
There you go.
I can see that.
I can see that too. Yep. If any artist is interested in getting in contact with you, how can they contact you, Sid?
Probably on Instagram through my label, MECAP Music, MECAP Music. Hit me up at the Instagram, but I'm going to tell you now, if you're a rapper, do not, am I froze?
You back.
Yeah, you good now. You good.
You back.
MECAP Music, MECAP Music, MUSIC on Instagram. But if you're a rapper or even an R&B singer, please do not send me any music with profanity or the N-word. I will not, we cannot do business together.
Okay. Y'all hear that, right, guys? No N-word, no profanity. If you're serious about your music, this man been in the game forever. He know people that know people that know people. You know what I'm saying?
I want your grandmother to be able to like your music.
There you go.
And if you tell me your grandmother is ratchet, then well, I can't help you.
Hey, you ain't far off these days.
Yeah, so you got grandmas at 35 years old now. I don't know, man.
It's the expression "babies making babies," you know. So
man.
That's no telling what you get nowadays. All right, guys, thank you very much for having me. I appreciate it. I've enjoyed this. And until next time when we have Forecast on, you guys take care, be safe, and keep it positive.
Hey, Sid, just hold on for a second. I got something I want to ask you off camera, okay? Just hold on for a second.
All right.
Guys, thank you for liking and subscribing to the channel. Classic interview like always. See y'all in the next episode. Peace. Hold on, Sid.